Cannot swords be turned to plowshares? Can we and all nations not live in peace? In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly...
Could he be talking about the angels of the Most High?
...would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. I think maybe I'd answer it this way. I keep, in my frustration sometimes, you know, actually, if you count some of the things going on in smaller countries and all, there have been about 114 wars since World War II. But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all? We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat?
That's a nice way for Esau to put it.
In our discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children, wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet,
like the angels of the Most High
in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are.
They will try to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels. So, like everything else, though.
Listen, if you've been in a car accident, don't call an attorney. Use...
Shalom! First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakah Kadash. Double honors the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And shout out to the Akims out there in the four corners of the earth who proclaim this truth. Rakah the Yahweh, Rakah the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakah Kadash, Rakatam. CNN caught lying again, rather, Esau caught lying again, right? You remember this guy. We looked at it at the very beginning, you know, as they took Damascus, right? CNN reporter admitted Assad victim found in Syrian prison was regime intel officer. Last week, CNN aired melodramatic report that was supposed to show a CNN crew amazingly rescuing a victim of the Assad regime from the bowels of Damascus dungeon after days of mounting skepticism, pointing questions, ricocheting across social media, alternative news sites, and here at Zero Hedge, CNN now says the rescued man was actually a regime intelligence officer. In other words, trying to provoke regime change. In other words, you could say he was a white helmet. He was, part of CIA intelligence. And there are reports that he himself perpetuated crimes against civilians. Oh, okay, you mean he was a terrorist? You know? He was actually Salam Mohammed Salma, a.k.a. Abu Hamza, an infamous and cruel first lieutenant in Syrian Air Force intelligence. See, the people that were held in Damascus were actually real ISIS criminals. Salama has a grim history. He participated in military operations on several fronts in Homs in 2014, killed civilians, and was responsible for detaining and torturing numerous young men in the city without cause or on fabricated charges. Well, CNN didn't really report on that, now did they? That's why we here at Great Millstone and others, we watch the alternative media. But they want you to paint this really sad picture. We'll play it again. This is pathetic.
I'm a civilian, he says. I'm a civilian.
So they wanted you to believe that Assad...
He tells the fighter he's from the city of Homs. He's been in the cell for 3 months.
Well, has Esau not been proved to be a liar? Well, that's just to make you think that this is regime change. Well, that's a very good thing, right? I mean, because Bashar al-Assad is very bad. Well, here's a little more from RT, right? You know? Hey, well, that's why we turn on the alternative media.
CNN has admitted it may have inadvertently released a fake news report from Syria. That's after allegations surfaced that a man the outlet showed being found inside a jail cell was actually a member of Assad's forces instead of a political prisoner.
We have subsequently been investigating his background and are aware that he may have given a false identity.
The report in question aired on CNN on the 11th of December, and it showed their correspondent, Clarissa Ward, entering a Syrian Air Force intelligence prison with her crew, and then they spotted that there was one cell that was locked, and it appears that there was a blanket that was moving. So the militants that she was with asked her to step aside while they busted the door open, and from there, this man emerged who identified himself as Adil Gerbal, supposedly a political prisoner who by that point had been locked up for 3 months and hadn't had water in 4 days. And apparently he was left there to rot.
Yeah, CNN faking the news.
Let's see a clip.
Like they don't have a history like Desert Storm of doing that.
He clutches my arm tightly with both hands. Does anyone have any water? This is the third prison they brought me to, he says. The third prison. After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky. Stay with me, he repeats again and again. Hyder hands him something to eat. He barely lifted to his mouth.
CNN lies.
His body can't handle it.
First of all, he does not look like a man who had been in solitary confinement for 3 months. What's more, this is what's very interesting. 5 days before the crew arrived, anti-government forces were there and they checked that prison. And some of the jihadists actually broadcasted entering that prison live on Facebook. Also, we know that there were families that went there looking for their relatives to see if someone stayed behind. And from all of those people, no one spotted that there was one cell that was locked and one man remained inside. That's what really doesn't add up. And again, we see the CNN crew, instead of taking him to hospital right away or to an ambulance, they actually pull up a chair and start interviewing him. And all of this looks really ridiculous. And that's why, of course, you had a lot of people online that started commenting right away and slamming this report as fake.
The manicured nails of a man who was in a Syrian dungeon without light for 3 months until CNN rescued him.
What's interesting is that there is a Western-backed fact-checking organization called Verify that said that actually this man, his identity is completely different. They backed up those statements through local residents. They exposed his true identity. And what's interesting, why it's interesting, is that the fact that they have ties to Washington. So that's why it's interesting that they were the ones that exposed it. And
CIA.
this is what they had to say.
Verify Psi, a Syrian fact-checking group, now says that this man is Air Force Intelligence First Lieutenant Salama Mohammed Salama, notorious for extortion and theft in Homs, who had been arrested due to disputes with his colleagues about profit sharing.
And now that disclaimer has since been added under that report so that people know that what they're watching is potentially fake, even though CNN continues to air it.
But here's the thing, it's not the first time she's been in the ethics firing line, right?
For example, we know that she produced really favorable reports. First of all, she was granted access, for example, back in, 2012, to Idlib, the Al-Qaeda enclave there. And also she produced favorable reports about the Free Syrian Army, which we know that they're, of course, supported by the West. And then we had her appearing as part of the U.S. delegation at the UN Security Council, where she was talking about all these Islamic factions as being the heroes on the ground and that their voices need to be heard. And then when there were other journalists, for example, the Grey Zone's Max Blumenthal, who was producing reports from the other points of view about how Syrians were complaining and they were talking about how they were tortured by Western-backed forces, she straight away attacked him, saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about and he must be a drug addict. So she went straight to attack him. So we can see, we saw examples of her biased reporting for years now. Just in the recent days, I believe it was December 15th, where we saw, again, another notorious American journalist, Bilal Abdul Karim, who has a very shady, a very long track record. We won't go into that because it will take us a couple of hours at least. But he has been described as, at one point, a propaganda tool for HTS, the jihadists who seized power in Syria. And he produced this report on December 15th where he shows the following.
We're at the Palestinian branch prison here in Damascus. Now, what you're looking at here is something that history will probably never forget.
Our people are just as bad as the Edomites.
These are the documents.
The two-thirds are just as bad as the Edomites, and that's why they're going to be judged by the Most High, because they are liars too.
Prisoners were never heard from again. And now that
and fucking pay for what they've done,
abandoned the prison, they decided to torch the records so that families would never know what happened to their loved ones.
What a
So
liar.
all those documents were torched, but have a look at the room itself. The ceiling, the walls are all white. It doesn't look like there was a fire or even smoke there, anything. So after reports like this, it's really hard to know what to believe, who to believe, and it's making it harder for viewers to understand what is true.
Let's cross it to Christopher Halali, International Secretary of the American Communist Party. Many thanks for joining us. So, what are your thoughts on this bombshell story that could potentially implicate CNN in producing a fake news report?
Well, it's not the first one, and it certainly will not be the last one. We know, historically speaking, how many times there have been fake reports and disinformation from Western media targeting countries that they
if
don't
we
agree with US
question
policy,
certain
that
things,
don't count out to
we're
Washington,
considered
and ultimately
disinformation.
whitewashing the crimes of organizations and terrorist groups that are allied with Washington. So we know that's the case now with all of this propaganda, whitewashing Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, right, HTS. We know about the whitewashing that has occurred for Azov Battalion and for Right Sector in Ukraine. This is just a par for the course. And so, of course, we especially with Clarissa Ward, who after October 7th went to Israel and made some fake reporting about being under attack, while there was no threat to her life, but, you know, getting down on the ground and trying to say that she was somehow under attack by Hamas. This is just what the media does in the United States. We know, of course, its role in manufacturing consent for the U.S. war machine and for the regime change operations that Washington conducts. And so it's something that's just within the playbook. And I think that right now people are very aware that this is going on. People understand the situation on the ground, and that it cannot be that one day this group is Al-Qaeda and the next day these are moderate rebels who are somehow liberal humanitarians and Democrats in Damascus. It simply can't be the case, and I think many people are aware that this is propaganda.
So what does this tell us about the standards of journalism at CNN and other mainstream media outlets?
I don't think there are standards anymore. I mean, to be quite frank, I think that there are no standards. I think that CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS have become mouthpieces of the national security state.
And don't forget Fox.
Of the U.S. government, and especially for its ongoing crimes abroad. And so there is no, for example, ability to have multiple points of view on these stations. For example, when they bring in people who have diverse viewpoints, they usually are cut out, or they're labeled conspiracy theorists, or they're somehow ostracized as somehow insane. But of course, their perspective, which is the dominant perspective, the perspective of the U.S. government, is touted as authority and fact. And that's the real danger about not giving the American people access to real information. And that's why they have attacked RT and other news stations, both domestically and abroad, because they're fearful of alternative narratives and alternative viewpoints getting through. And that's why I think they have absolutely no credibility these days.
Despite the scandal over this latest story, why do you think CNN refused to immediately retract the report?
I think that they're caught now with their pants down, so to speak. The emperor has no clothes. This is a situation where the public, and especially some great journalists like Max Blumenthal, called them out immediately. And many people started to investigate, including groups that are aligned with the U.S., basically saying that, first and foremost, you could have made the propaganda a little bit more believable. Maybe some dirtier clothes, maybe some more raggedy fingernails and hair. But they ended up putting this person who probably just came off the street, they put him in there under a blanket. And then all of a sudden they said that this was a prisoner for 3 months and he'd been denied water for over 3 days. And this is absolutely crazy. It just makes no sense. So I think that CNN now is caught in a catch-22. How can they somehow explain this away? I think their tactic now is to let this go further.
Just like you had that other guy pretending that they got hit by a bomb in Saudi Arabia. Remember that reporter? And you come to find out that was just off of a rooftop in Chicago. They faked that whole story, you know? It's hilarious. But what a fool believes is what he sees. A wise man has the power to reason away, man. You see, we, the elect, have the wisdom and the understanding to know the scriptures. These Edomites, well, they ain't even talking about the scriptures. They're getting ready to celebrate Christmas. But nonetheless, though, this is what's happening.
Further and further.
Same for our 2/3.
That exists, the amnesia in the United States. And somehow eventually after some weeks say, oh, sorry, this was misreported. But by that time, everybody has already forgotten about it. And those of us who keep bringing it up will be labeled conspiracy theorists once again.
Well, this follows, of course, when CNN aired what many called a shocking interview with the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham terrorist group that now controls Damascus. And CNN tried to rebrand the HTS chief as a former Al-Qaeda and ISIS fighter, as a revolutionary rebel.
Yeah.
And Western outlets have had similar coverage. What do you make of these whitewashing attempts?
Yeah, they just changed the name of the group.
Me personally, as somebody who fought alongside Syrian Arab Army Kurdish forces and Russian peacekeeping and military forces in the region against Daesh, I am deeply concerned about this. I fought against also Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and these Al-Qaeda affiliated groups, Al-Nusra Front in the region. This is a crime. This is a crime to whitewash these jihadists, to somehow brand them as liberators, as the bringers of freedom, as revolutionaries. This is absolutely insane. I'm fearful for the Christians in the region, the Druze, the Alawites, the minorities. I'm fearful for the entire rich cultural and religious legacy. And I believe, as we know from the past, that the U.S. has consistently supported and funded the most ruthless of these Salafi and Wahhabi jihadist groups, starting back with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan against the Soviets, in a way to promote their own goals. So that's what they're doing here. They're saying that HTS is theirs.
Many thanks for speaking to us. Christopher Halali, International Secretary of the American Communist Party. Thank you.
But Syria's free, according to, the mainstream media, right? Well, even Redacted goes into this, right? I love Redacted's point of view, man. That's why we, the elect, we watch the alternative media. Fuck the mainstream. That's Esau as a liar as a whole. But you got people within that that expose their lies, man. Esau's getting exposed on a daily basis. Well, how did that start? Well, that started with the elect, man.
Well, last week we showed you this fake CNN video of Clarissa Ward rescuing a Syrian prisoner who was freed from a Syrian prison. We surmised, we're guessing that it's fake based on many different data points. And CNN now has been forced to admit that it was a bit of a sham, and the man that they reportedly rescued was what they call now a regime torturer. Way to go. Way to go. As a reminder, here's a video that they posted as if they were rescuing someone from what they call the Assad regime. People were quick to point out many flaws, such as this man looks well-fed and groomed for having been in prison for 3 months in this jail cell under a sleeping bag. I'm just going to play a little bit of it for you. We're not going to watch the whole minute and 47. But here they are like, ooh, someone here? What's going on? So let's just watch a little bit and we'll stop because it's...
I can't tell though. It might just be a blanket. But it's the only cell that's locked. Is he going to shoot it?
The guard shoot the lock off. Camera off while he shoots the lock off the cell door. We go in to get a closer look. It's still not
oh my God.
There is something under the blanket.
Is there a man under that blanket? And he didn't hear the gunshot echoing through a cement building where we just shot a lock off?
He's napping.
He's just napping. Look, I'm a light sleeper, but I think a gunshot reverberating through there. It's like a gun range. Oh, maybe he's wearing protective percussion.
Shoot it, yeah, point a gun at him because, let's see.
There's a man under here. It's okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. Well fed.
I'm a civilian, he says. I'm a civilian.
Yeah. And then they go outside and he looks right up at the sun. Yeah. Oh my God, she's so...
He's from the city of Homs. He's been in the cell for 3 months. Okay, you're okay. You're okay.
Okay, also, her bio, let's go ahead and, so then she's like, let's take him outside, let's get him some water, does anyone have water? Her bio says she speaks Arabic, but she does not bother to speak to him in any kind of Arabic at all.
It's gotta be English for an American audience.
Right, but if you, who does she care about then? Like, she's trying to tell this guy, you're okay, and then she tells a translator to tell him that she can't tell the kid.
Yeah, it's all performance.
I do notice that, like, so they shot the lock off of, like, that sort of back room of, like, cells, but his cell was wide open. That is not standard practice for why is the guy still in his cell when the door is wide open?
It's literally like the minions who just walk through when they say, let's leave the jail, and then they just walk through,
sideways and
they just go out.
Through. Like, oh, I could have gotten out of here the whole time?
Right.
I just love this so much.
Now, we've seen her sort of stage these attacks before, or these, dramatic news pieces, such as this one.
Like white helmets.
Said she was under fire in Israel after the war in Gaza began. We'll watch just a tiny bit of this as well.
Clarissa is on the ground right now. Clarissa, tell us
Hi, John. So forgive
Reminds me of some of the other liars that they have out there.
Massive barrage of rockets coming in here, not too far from us. So we have had to take shelter here. By the way,
okay, so it was,
I told us to get the juicy juice.
It was reported that not so far from us was doing some heavy lifting in that sentence.
Yeah. Greta?
So the community notes took that Syrian prisoner
fixed news
video,
all the
and
time.
they just handled it, and I loved watching it. But then also an independent fact checker named Verify.
Greta was under fake arrest. Remember that?
This rescued Syrian prisoner was in fact a first lieutenant in the Syrian Air Force intelligence with a long rap sheet of alleged crimes. They say his name is Salama Mohammed Salama, known as Abu Hamza, and he is a first lieutenant in the Air Force, notorious for his activities, such as frequently being stationed at checkpoints in the area, in an area that was infamous for civilian abuses. He reportedly managed several of these checkpoints and was involved in theft, extortion, coercing residents into becoming informants, and he has only been there for less than a month, according to locals. So And, you know, when you look at this, you think of, that's actually kind of racist the way they pulled this off. They just thought any old Arabic-looking guy would do. Like, oh, those Arabs, they're savages. Nobody will know who this guy really is. As if they don't have access to the internet or any kind of research, right?
Right.
Oh, and for the record, the real Syrians are not Arabs. They are their own race. If you go back to Genesis and you read more about Syrians, they're their own race. The only reason why they're considered Arabs now, which Arab, by the way, means mixed race. All that aside, the original Syrians, well, they are now sort of mixed in the area, in the region, but nonetheless, though, Syrians are not Arabic, just to that's the language they speak, but nonetheless, though, they're not Arabians. They're not Ishmaelites. Syrians are their own race.
And so, yeah, that's arrogant. Here's what CNN now says to the New York Post when they were asked about this. They said, we have subsequently been investigating his background and we're aware he may have given us a false identity. We're continuing our reporting into this and the wider story. But they still maintain that this was not staged.
Right.
Sure it wasn't. And they really did find him there.
Like,
they
the
said,
elementary school
that CNN denies allegations that the piece was fabricated.
To grab
no
guns?
one other than the CNN team was aware of our plans to visit the prison building featured in our report that day. The events transpired as they appear in our film.
Right.
So you can just march into these, prisons now, is what they say, even though Al-Qaeda is in charge in Syria, but they were just like,
they changed the name, though.
We woke up that day and said, where should we go? Should we check out the local prison, see if anyone's still there? So, okay, they're investigating those. So it's still up on her profile. The comments are gold. When other CNN anchors like Caitlin Collins have also retweeted it, those comments are super fun. I encourage you to watch on X.
Well, I love that these CNN anchors, like Caitlin Collins, posted that report. She's like, "This is incredible."
That's what she said.
And I responded on Twitter.
Yeah, Clayton says Oscar worthy. Actually,
Oscar worthy, incredible, really.
Right.
I just want to know. I want to know who they're gonna get to fake eyewitness to their when they're
their Desert Storm got some Academy Awards too.
I went into a CNN office and there was an intern that's been locked in here for 4 months. I can't believe the sunlight outside. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's wild. So, okay, they'll investigate themselves and we'll see. Well, for the rest of us, they're like, that doesn't seem quite so right. So, it doesn't help with the plummeting confidence in the legacy media now, does it? Well,
So, like everything else, though, Esau's foreskin has been uncovered, right? He should not be able to hide himself as seed is spoiled. Now, of course, these are famous, and I'm just going to go ahead and search it because it should be on here. I mean, I am looking at, what you could call this one, you can still find some truth videos on here. If not, there's other channels, but CNN, fake bomb, Saudi Arabia, Remember Desert Storm? Let's see if I can find that. Oh, they must have cleaned this one up. Oh, wait, no, it's right here. They just call them bloopers to make it sound a little better. I mean, not that their news is really...
What we had intended was simply to go to Charles Jaco for an update about what was happening in Kuwait City this morning. We want to roll the video right before he was supposed to go on the air, and you'll see what happened as he was preparing to do a live report to us back here in Atlanta. Can we roll that now?
Hey, could somebody please put that... Ah, Jesus Christ. Wow. CNN's Carl Rochelle is here with me. Just came up. Carl, I know
they went live, wouldn't they?
Given these restrictions, but within those parameters, what did you see? Well, what I saw, I didn't see anything.
Get that mask. Put that mask on.
There's a vapor trail.
Saddam's chemical weapons.
And there's a cloud of something. It looks like it might have been an explosion. A cloud. Like saying.
They wouldn't be mouthpieces for the New World Order, would they?
There hasn't been any gas dropped here that we can fumes from a missile exhaust going off. The missiles use a rocket, a cordite, some sort of burning. We just heard a little thump just then, but I have to apologize for that. I thought I lifted something and felt momentarily dizzy. You're more experienced military employees than I am, but it might have been a little gas from
And that was on the top of a building in Chicago, by the way.
A lot of people have the respirators on just in case. And again, you run to get down here. You, in my case, jumped out of bed hearing the air raid warning go on. You run down 3 flights of stairs to get out of here. It's probably 100 yards. You hyperventilate a little bit.
Soundbite with Oakley. 30 seconds. It's impossible. Oh! Shit!
Hey man, these are nothing but actors, man. But she now teaches you, not to take the juice. She's actually become more active, this actress here. CNN was granted an award for their coverage of Desert Storm. Everybody was watching CNN back then. Who would have been able to tell that it was fake, right? Hey man, Esau's a liar, his foreskin's been uncovered, right? 2/3 don't work. CDU Merce says many of them Syrians living in Germany must go back. Oh, they're going to get ready to deport them, right? Fortress shall cease from Ephraim. And of course, Syria's being exploited. They better go home because now the Free Syrian Army has now liberated the country. It's a very safe place to live now. I mean, it's not like they're terrorists like ISIS because they're now moderates, they changed the name. It's just kind of like the Bloods and the Crips. You can call them moderates now, as with this doublespeak, right? May as well. German Christian Democrat candidate for chancellor says that Germany cannot accept more Syrians, and that those Syrians who are not integrated should return to Syria. He said 1/3 who work and are integrated in Germany can stay, but the 2/3 that don't work, they are overwhelmingly young men. Many of them can go back, and many must go back. So they're going to deport the Syrians too. Hey man, Esau's coming down like a madman, sparing none, right? Ukraine assassinates head of Russia's chemical and biological defense forces with scooter bomb in Moscow. In another scary escalation which will lead to unpredictable consequences, top military general and head of the Russian military chemical weapons forces was killed in Moscow in a targeted blast which Ukraine quickly owned up to. Lieutenant General Kirilov had been killed in assassination bombing and is the most senior Russian official killed since the start of the Ukraine war. So like everything else though, Russia, like Putin said recently that they're pushing the envelope as far as they can just because Russia hasn't responded with nuclear weapons, even though they know that Russia can respond with nuclear weapons. Chief of Russian Chemical Defense Force killed in Moscow blast. Lieutenant Kirilov was one of the 2 victims of the explosion near a residential building. The explosion occurred around 0600 hours outside residential building and Rozansky Avenue, and Kirilov and his aide were leaving the premises to board an official vehicle. So another terrorist attack, because you can call these terrorist attacks. Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirms radioactive material lost in transit. See this whole false flag, broken arrow, because they can't explain these unidentified objects. They're still trying to call them drones, but they're still the chariots of the Most High, which they can't do anything about, but they keep lying about it. Well, may as well go ahead and use it just to say that there's a dirty bomb somewhere, right? So they can blame political enemies. Hey, why not milk that cow now that it's there? Shipping container arrives damaged and empty in New Jersey, so it's coming. Missing nuclear sources have the danger of being used by terrorists for dirty bombs. There it is, right there. A perfect false flag. On Friday, The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission released an event report regarding radioactive source being lost in transit in Newsfield on December 2nd. So now there's just lost material. And you already saw his video. So we'll play a little bit.
What is Elon Musk really saying about the UAV, UAP, UFO off-the-chart acceleration of activity? Well, he put out last Friday morning at 2 in the morning, it says, everyone, please stop creating fake narratives for war. U.S. government, of the government, boom. This is September 30th. Drone swarm battles are coming that will boggle the mind. And 2 months later, it happens. Elon Musk, September 29th, epic drone wars coming. The drone wars are already a big deal, but we ain't seen nothing yet. Remember last week they tried to say Iran had motherships off the coast. And the sheriff's department saying, no, we saw 50 of these orbs flying off the ocean over the city. And then the Pentagon goes, oh no, that's not Iran. That's not us. We don't know who it is, but don't worry, it's not dangerous. We don't know who it is. It's not us. It's not a foreign government, though. We know that. Not an Iranian submarine, but it's not a threat. That's designed to create fear. They know they're
angels
they know
of the Most High.
So
but they want to paint it as something else because they
makes people even more scared. They use their weakness as a strength. They want Congress to pass the new H.R. 8610, Counter UAV Authority, Security, Safety, and Reauthorization Act 2024. And that's new agency power, new control, new money into the FAA and into NORAD and into Northcom.
So like everything else, though, you know, they can't explain what these things are, right? They have to tell you that it's drones because that's something explainable, right? But we know who they are. We know that these are the angels of the Most High. Russia, Germany, Turkey condemn Israeli land grab in Syria. See, eventually they're going to come. Netanyahu now declare the Golan belongs to Israel forever. In the wake of the fall of Assad, and Israel is expected to double the amount of settlers living there. Multiple Southeast Asia nations and Israel's ally, Germany, on Monday denounced Israel's decision to double the Israeli settler population in the Israeli-occupied Syrian territory, Al Jazeera writes. I've been warned to certain hotheads in West Jerusalem against being intoxicated by opportunities, Rebecca said, stressing the annexation of the Golan Heights, which many are talking about right now, is absolutely unacceptable. But hey, they're not going to stop until they have pretty much taken over the entire region. So, you know.
Israeli military continues to send troops, tanks, bulldozers, and heavy equipment inside the buffer zone, crossing beyond the border with Syria. This is the buffer zone that Israel occupied after the fall of the Syrian regime. Israel continues to send these heavy equipment, digging dirt, sending heavy equipment, trying to make what seems to be new roads for additional Israeli tanks and soldiers to be sent inside Syria to either assert its control over the area that it occupied since the fall of the regime, or even occupy more land. Also, this is Mount Hermon behind us. This is the part of the mountain where Israel controlled before the fall of the regime. Then that side is the side that the former regime army withdrew from, and Israel took control of it, basically occupied it. The Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, instructed the Israeli army on Friday to remain stationed in the occupied buffer zone on the Syrian side of Mount Hermon during the winter months following its occupation of the area on December 8th, saying that for the time being, Israeli forces will not leave Mount Hermon or any area that it has occupied since the fall of the regime. Israeli military chief of staff Herzi Halevi also on Sunday visited the area Israel has occupied, and also the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that any territory Israel has occupied since the fall of
not going to relinquish. Which, you know, that this is what's going to draw everybody in to the third world that cometh quickly. Oh, Libya again. You know, we were just looking at older videos, right? You know, about the fall of Gaddafi. Well, it looks like the UN launches fresh attempts to resolve political deadlock in Libya. Ah, Libya again. North African nation has remained conflict-torn, thanks to the UN and Obama, right? And divided since the NATO-backed overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. United Nations mission in Libya has announced a new initiative to resolve issues and hold long-delayed elections. Oh boy, new puppet government. North African nation has been divided between competing governments since a NATO-backed coup ousted former leader Muammar Gaddafi over a decade ago. So, U.S. MIL intends to establish an advisory committee. I wonder if they'll just get Hayat al-Sham to be the leader there, to develop options for resolving outstanding issues in the election framework and pave the way for holding general elections and a one government for all Libyans, she stated. Right, because they're so good. They're so good at this, right? You know, they're the best. You know, Iraq, Syria, and Libya are the fucking greatest places to live since the U.S. has been there. You see what a liar this fucking devil is. U.S. British warplanes bomb Yemeni Defense Ministry as conflict over Gaza escalates. And if they could occupy Yemen, they would. They've been trying to occupy Yemen ever since this long war. But they haven't gotten Yemen yet, but they're going to. U.S. and British warplanes carried out fresh airstrikes against the Yemeni capital of Sana'a and other regions, intensifying attacks on Yemeni armed forces continue their anti-Israeli operations in support of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip amid the regime's genocide. So, like everything else though, you know, they continue to attack. You know, and you still have resistance, right? So, there's a little bit more here in this escalation as this report goes into.
Its most decorated weapons of war, the B-2 bomber, to counter a small force in the Middle East called the Houthis. That's right. Billions of dollars worth of equipment and millions of dollars were spent by the U.S. against such a minion militia. So, what the heck did the Houthis do in the first place that resulted in them entering the crossfire of the most powerful military in the world? The answer lies in a situation involving the entire Middle East, not just the Red Sea. The Northrop B-2 Spirit is a heavy stealth bomber used by the U.S. Air Force to penetrate deep behind dense anti-aircraft enemy lines without being discovered by radar or similar detection devices. Despite its complex nature and huge capabilities, the bomber only needs a crew of 2 people to complete a successful mission and can refuel.
Slovakia, this goddamn devil and his fucking ads. Can't get around that shit. Unless you want to pay $15 a month.
What a true marvel of engineering, right? Well, let's get to the actual sauce. The B-2 bomber used for the attack supposedly took off from its home base in Missouri. It flew over 12,000 miles over to the Suez Canal, refueling midair just over the Atlantic Ocean, employing the help of the U.S. Air Force's KC-135 Stratotanker. Using a calculated route over friendly airspaces in Spain, Italy, Israel, and Saudi Arabia, the B-2 bomber successfully destroyed 5 underground bunkers owned and operated by the Houthis as warehouses deep in mountain terrain. These bunkers held advanced weaponry and ballistic missiles allegedly acquired from Iran in the preceding weeks. If you ask, it wasn't just an everyday mission. The U.S. did quite a bit of preparation in the days leading to this attack. Both aerial surveillance using drones and up-to-date intelligence from Airborne Early Warning and Control Systems, or AWACS, which are kind of like flying radars, were made available to the B-2 bomber so that it could hit its target successfully. But the United States Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, said that this was just a retaliation to Houthis' attack on British and American oil tankers on Thursday, October 3rd, and it is just a show of how capable the United States Army really is, and its determination to safeguard the interests of the nation and its allies. To fully understand the context
allies
of the
means
you
the
should
least
know
the flock.
damages that can be inflicted by a B-2 bomber, including but not limited to ground-penetrating bombs. Most of the sites that were attacked during the B-2 bombing run were underground installations that were otherwise untouchable by conventional missiles. The main bomb used in this attack was the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, otherwise known as the Bunker Buster. This bomb weighs
these were
anywhere
used on
between
Iraq
4,000
as
and
well.
30,000 pounds alone and can penetrate up to 200 feet into the ground. Thanks to its ultra-strong build, it's able to penetrate deep into the ground before exploding, and using a delayed fuse to further ensure the timing of the explosion, rendering any underground structures completely annihilated. So good luck digging in deep. Imagine you're a rebel fighter, stationed safely in a fortified bunker deep within a mountain, surrounded by advanced radar tech just delivered from overseas. An air raid is raging above ground, but your screens show nothing unusual. Suddenly, a rumble shakes the ground, followed by a bright flash, and in that instant, it's clear. A B-2 bomber has struck, undetected until it was already too late. This is the deadly precision and stealth that makes the B-2 bomber nearly invisible to radar and devastatingly effective. When you compare this experience with the fact that the B-2 stealth bomber can carry up to 40,000 pounds of ordnance, which can be nuclear or non-nuclear, fly undetected up to 50,000 feet above ground level, has an extremely complex engine design to reduce heat signatures, and super reflective airframe make the B-2 virtually undetectable by any radar. You can feel why the US chose to use this aircraft just to make a point to everyone in the Middle East. Here's another fact. There are no official reports about a missile being launched at the B-2 bomber. Cool, right? Well, ask that to the Houthi rebels, who have lost the complete operational capability of their major arsenals lent to them by Iran. Strategically, the U.S. mission was a success in demonstrating its capabilities to destroy even the most remote fortified structures anywhere in the world.
So, like everything else, though, they've been using advanced weaponry, right? Things that they couldn't detect. Assad's overthrow, unfriendly takeover by Turkey, and this has come from Donald Trump. Also, Donald Trump is friendly to Syria, right? He's a very nice guy, and he loves Syria. He wouldn't launch an attack on Syria based upon false information like he did in 2018. No, Donald Trump said that he would kill that gas-killing criminal, right? Be ready for bombs to hit. Hey, he fucking bombed Syria too. It's so hypocritical. Ankara now holds the key to Syria's future, U.S. President-elect claimed. Turkey is behind the regime change in Syria, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump claimed on Monday. In his first press briefing since the November election, Trump called the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad and his government an unfriendly takeover by Ankara. The situation in Syria changed drastically over the past 2 weeks after militants led by the terrorist group launched an offensive against the country's troops and taking major cities, including the capital, Damascus. After the collapse of the Syrian military, the armed opposition seized power, forcing President Assad to flee to Russia, where he was granted political asylum. Those people that are controlled by Turkey, and that's okay, Trump stated. He added that he considered Turkish President Erdogan a smart, very tough guy for succeeding in his overthrow of the Syrian leadership. According to Trump, Turkey will also play a significant role in Syria's future. Yeah, but Turkey is going to be working more with Russia. Russia's still their ally. Senior British diplomats meet with terrorist group in Syria. Yeah, and I'm sure these are the same people that McCain hung out with, right? So, let's just see. I have a sense of humor. Let's go see John McCain. See if I can find some pictures here. These are famous pictures. I mean, you know, I know that the internet tries to polish this, so I might not get it in the direct search. Yeah, see, they polished it a lot. Ah, wait, here we are. So, let's just see if the guy that's in charge of Syria now is actually there. It looks like it, but who could say, right? But either way, it's the same terrorist group, because that was always the plan. was to overthrow the government of Bashar al-Assad, right? A group of diplomats from the UK have held talks with the head of the Hayat al-Sham militant group, which ousted former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government earlier this month, amid widespread reports of Western and Israeli support. Well, of course it was. Among those pictured with Al Ghani and Al Snow, the UK special envoy to Syria, according to Hayat al-Sham, the British delegation on Monday discussed the latest developments in the Arab country. Hayat al-Sham remains a banned terrorist organization in the UK, but we can have diplomatic contacts with it. So we have contacts aimed specifically at ensuring the establishment of a representative government and securing chemical weapons stockpiles in Syria, he told British media on Sunday. Yeah, because remember the hypocrisy that Bashar al-Assad was using chemical weapons against his own people. The same rhetoric that they used against Saddam Hussein. If they could have used it against Gaddafi, they would have, but they just said Gaddafi is killing his own people. Just the same as they said that Bashar al-Assad was gassing his own people. Remember that? I mean, fucking Trump, who acts like he was on their side when he called him a gas-killing criminal. But I digress. But hey, there's more. Remember that bomb that Israeli state just recently used against Syria, you know, that caused an earthquake? I wonder if it's the same bomb that they used about a year ago, you know, that caused the earthquake between Turkey and Syria.
We begin with the Khalistanis. They have issued a new threat, this time against the Indian ambassador to the United States. The threat was made on American soil, yet Washington has taken no action against the perpetrator, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. This time he has targeted Russia too. So where is this heading, and what is Moscow's response? We'll tell you. In Myanmar, China is set to send a private army, much like Russia's Wagner Group. What kind of security implications will it have for New Delhi? Sri Lanka's new president is in India. We'll discuss why this is a significant trip. How much money has the Assad family looted from Syria? Reports talk about plane loads of cash and tons of gold. Why is the world in a hurry to legitimize the group?
You see everything they can to bash
How did the Russian
Assad.
tanker sink in the Black Sea? Will Elon Musk challenge Gmail by launching Xmail? Why is there panic in the US over drone sightings? Donald Trump says they should be shut down. Who will regulate AI bots that tell children to kill their parents for limiting screen time? What do you drink on a holiday? It's an important
What a bunch of lies, man.
In Laos and Fiji.
I'm sorry, I even found this video.
Israeli airstrikes on Sunday took place near Syria's coastal region. Damascus says it was the most intense bombardment in the area since 2012. Taiwan received the first batch of US-made Abrams tanks. The tanks are among the heaviest in the world and a mainstay of the US Army. Taipei is looking to boost its capabilities as China increases its military pressure on the self-ruled island. The US is Taiwan's most important ally.
Yeah, it's a propaganda channel. But nonetheless, though, you can see, though, that, you know, the Israeli state has used recent. I'll unsubscribe to that. It's crap. Yeah, that's just crap. That's propaganda. It's no different than CNN. But nonetheless, though, you know, pretty much so, you know, they're not fooling anyone. Everybody knows that mainstream media is liars, right? I mean, that's just it, you know. So, again, you know, going back to Jeremiah 49, his foreskin being uncovered, right? Meaning that he should not be able to hide himself, right? Because that's just it. Esau's getting exposed on a daily basis. Jeremiah chapter 49 verse 10. I made Esau bare. I've uncovered his secret places. And he should not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. Leave thy father's children, I will preserve them alive, and let thy widows trust in me. Because they're all going to be dying in that area that the Most High calls the Valley Yehoshaphat. Where's that? It's right there in Syria. Syria has always been the key as you get further into this chapter. You see? Basra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste. And that's by way of that nuclear destruction. That's going to come from Russia, Gog, Magog. Gather you together and come against her, and rise up to the battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen, and despised among men. Everybody fucking hates America and the Israeli state. And they're going to be gathered together in that valley that's known as Syria to come against this devil and get him once and for all. And that's the day that Damascus ceases from being a city. That's the day of the Lord, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, when he gathers his elect. It's going to happen in our time. There's only one more prophecy to happen. And that's right around the corner, by way of the digital dollar, you know, by way of Elon Musk, by way of these kings of the world, whether it be Donald J. Trump or it be, you know, other leaders. They're all going to make it mandatory. Even Putin's going to make it mandatory that everybody gets the C hit. It's coming. So hopefully this has been edifying. For that I will say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadosh, Wal Bab Bal. And don't take that C hit. That ensures you will have your place in that lake of fire. And that is that nuclear destruction. Shalom.